So, I said in one of my videos recently that I think there is going to be a massive, shall we say, very big, shall we say, tribalistic war on YouTube against the alt-right. Now, this has already, I think, started to happen, but you're going to see a lot of people really start to take the alt-right to task over a lot of their arguments. Now, I like to watch a debate. I've taken part in debating myself. I've competed in debating before, and I have to say this: a lot of the people that are currently engaged in debating people with the alt-right, first of all, they're not very good debaters. They might be able to make a good video, but they're not very good, shall we say, as live debaters, and that's because it takes a lot of practice to actually do debating, to be able to actually form, a coherent argument. The next thing is, they need to learn how to deal with grandstanding, because it's quite funny, because you see you see Sargon, someone who in past debates, and whenever he has sort of encountered someone from the left, he starts to grandstand. And now, when you, particularly in the Richard Spencer debate, when Spencer starts to grandstand him back, he can't do anything about it. So he needs to learn how to basically retake control of the conversation and retake control of his argument, because ultimately, if you were actually professionally scoring that debate, Richard Spencer just wins purely on his style, because Sargon couldn't handle that style. I like I like the Andy Warski very much. I like a lot of the debates he has. Someone else who I'd recommend if you like watching debates, Destiny. Destiny is a very good debater. He has improved massively as he has come along, and take it from someone who has, again, like I say, not blowing my own horn, but actually competed in debating competitions and the like. He has massively come along since you can see it go back to like when he had his first debate to a couple of debates he has had recently. Massive improvement. And that is how I think the left really needs to take an attack to the alt-right. They need to, first of all, have their own practice debates. Have someone who plays, devil's advocate, plays pretend the alt-right, and because their argument's already out there, so it's not hard to sort of play pretend someone who is alt-right and arguing for, an ethno-state and eventually genocide, because that's where it's all going. But let me give a piece of advice to people who want to debate people on the alt-right. The alt-right's ideas, and I say ideas, are just that, ideas. What you need to do is you need to get them and really nail them. First of all, you need to nail them to get them to define terms. They do not like to define white. Get them to define that. If you get them to define that, you will find that there are a lot of things you can really nail them on. For example, there are white Muslims. There are white Jews. Races, as they are identified as, that they don't like. But how then can, for example, a white Muslim or a white Jew be excluded from a white ethno-state? These are things and questions they don't like to answer, because, again, it shows that they are quite, well, obviously racist. And you start to actually nail them down into, okay, policy and what that actually means in real terms. Because Richard Spencer constantly says, oh, this can be done non-violently. You start to nail them down to non-violently and start saying, hey, we're going to ship you off back to this country where you were not born, you don't know the language, and we're just going to, shove you off there, yeah, people aren't going to take to that very nicely. So that's, again, another thing. Real world consequences. And not only that, but actual past historical actualities. You can actually go and look at what Hitler's ideal plan for an ethno-state was, and his living room, Lebensraum state, and really argue, look, you're going to be forcing hundreds of thousands of people off their land, forcing them possibly into, second-class citizen state. There's all this stuff you can attack them on of, actual real-world examples and consequences, because that's one thing the alt-right do not like to talk about. They like to engage in sort of intellectual, masturbation constantly on this topic. They do not like to talk about, turning what happens when the ideas become reality. And if you start to attack them on that, that reality basis, then you will start to get them on the foot. Because I've seen a lot of people debate people on the alt-right, and when they've started to do that, that's when they start to become uncomfortable. That's when they start grandstanding and start, throwing their toys out of the pram, because they do not want to debate that. Why? Because a lot of these organisations, a lot of these, alt-right typical organisations, I guarantee you at some point this year there is going to be audio come out of Richard Spencer and what he, really thinks of, shall we say, the other races, as the alt-right like to call them. Trust me, it's coming. All these organisations all have a similar leak where it all happens. And it will happen sooner or later. I guarantee you it will probably happen sooner or later this year. But yeah, so that's just my advice to people who want to actually start to talk about and debate with people on these topics. Because here's the thing, this rise, it's happened before. And a lot of what these people are talking about is exactly what, again, the Nazis were talking about. So here's the thing, don't be afraid to label them as Nazis, because you can make the label stick. If you actually go out and read about Hitler's rise to power, what he wanted to do, and what his future plans were for particularly Eastern Europe and things like that, and the eventual removal of the Slavs and things like that, things that Richard Spencer does want to do. But again, you need to know and you need to have that knowledge before you even walk into the debate. So you need to go out and need to actually get that history, get that knowledge, and get statistics as well, because half the time you'll find, for example, one of the big things is, the Muslims are wiping out the UK white population. Muslim birth rates have been dropping significantly over the past number of years, and by about I think it's in the next 5 or 8 years, they will be at the same levels as the normal white population. Things like that. That piece of information just disproves this idea that we're being bred out of existence and things like that. But there we are. So yeah, go forth, children. Go forth and learn. And once you've learned, have some practice debates. And once you've practiced, then actually go out and engage in these debates. And yeah, get really involved in actual policy, not just ideas. Talk about real world, actual situation, because one of the things the alt-right like to claim is that, they're talking about real life and real world situations. They're not. They're just cherry picking examples or data or statistics, or now they're using the now they're trying to claim that phrenology is actually a real up-to-date science. So there you go.